Hi everyone, it's Chris and welcome back to another video. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Now, I've just noticed that I've gone past 2,500 subscribers, so thank you to everybody who takes the time to like, subscribe and leave comments in the comment box down below. I really appreciate your support, so thank you very much. Now, the other day I was playing this album from 1981, Blue Oyster Cult, Fire of Unknown Origin, a real return to form, great album. And there's a song on here I've always liked. It was a big hit in the US back in 1981. It's called Burning for You. And it's got a line in it I've always liked, and that's time everlasting, time to play B-sides. And this week I've made some time to play B-sides, and I want to share with you some of the B-sides that I've kind of returned to this week. Back in the 70s when I started buying records, it was usually 45s because that's all I could afford. And when you got it home, you knew what you were getting on the A side, but when you flipped it over, what was the song going to be like? And sometimes it was an absolute stinker, and sometimes it was a gem. I'm going to share some gems with you today. So how about this one to start? Baby Please Don't Go by Van Morrison's band Them. And the B-side of that is Gloria. What a fantastic 45 that is. Bruce Springsteen, Dancing in the Dark. I think this was the lead-off single from Born in the USA. The B-side is a non-album track called Pink Cadillac, which is a great song, has a gorgeous saxophone solo, and is it Clarence Clemens, his player? Brilliant stuff. Honky Tonk Woman, one of the famous songs that they've got thousands, haven't they? But one of the famous songs from the Stones. It's backed with You Can't Always Get What You Want, which, arguably is far more important in their back catalogue than Honky Tonk Woman. Joni Mitchell, Big Yellow Taxi, and that's backed with Woodstock, which is another fine song from that kind of 1970 era. Or how about this one from the Selector, On My Radio, and that's the B-side of which is Too Much Pressure, which is a fantastic, it's almost like a double A, that. And then we've got Alice Cooper, Under My Wheels, which is backed with Desperado, and he also did this one as well, which is 18, backed with Is It My Body, which is a fantastic song. And then we've got the Members, Offshore Banking Business, backed with, I think, their best ever song, which is Solitary Confinement. They did bring out a different version of it, slightly different version of it. They recorded for Stiff Records. There weren't many made, and they brought it out as a B-side many years later. Their greatest song, I think. I think it's better than Sounds of the Suburbs. It's brilliant. Ian Dury, What a Waste. And that's backed up with Wake Up and Make Love With Me, which is a brilliant song. This is a bit of a novelty song. So the Yobs are the Boys' alter ego, and this is a kind of a Christmas song, Run Rudolph Run. But on the B-side, it's got a little 1-minute ditty called The Worm Song, which is that famous campfire song done as a punk song. It's absolutely brilliant. I love it. And then how about this one? Classic, Walk on the Wild Side. Wow, that's a tremendous song, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant. The B-side of that is Perfect Day. How good is that? That's got to be one of the best kind of B-sides going. I think you'd have to go a long way to beat the B-side though of Wouldn't It Be Nice, which is God Only Knows, which for me is their best ever song. On the B-side, absolutely amazing. Now some bands saved what I think is their best song for a B-side. So an example of that is there's Ships in the Night by Bebop Deluxe, one of their kind of well-known songs really, but on the B-side of that is Crying to the Sky, a track from Sunburst Finish, just like the A-side, a homage to Jimi Hendrix, and for me, their best moment. I absolutely adore that song, so that's a tremendous B-side. Pat Travers Band brought out an awful version of Is This Love, the Bob Marley and the Wailers song. Dreadful version of it, but on the B-side they've got Snorting Whiskey, which is one of their best songs. Def Leppard opened up their kind of discography with Get Your Rocks Off, Riding to the Sun as the A-side. The B-side, The Overture, is probably my favourite Def Leppard song. And then we've got two real classics. The first one is this one, Only You Can Rock Me, and Cherry are on the A-side. And for some reason I've got two of these, I don't know why, on cherry red vinyl. But the B-side is Rock Bottom from the album Phenomenon, which is, I think, their greatest song. It's certainly their anthem, if you like, their really big song. Talking of big songs, the B-side of Leonard Skinner's Sweet Home Alabama is Freebird, which is probably one of the greatest B-sides of all time, surely. And there were some bands that were renowned for their B-sides. So, no, the Beatles brought out numerous, probably a lot of them were double A sides. But this, I think, isn't a double A. This is Hey Jude, but it's back with Revolution, which is, a kind of, I think it's a poppier version, if I remember rightly. I didn't play it. A poppier version of the one that's on the album, but that's a tremendous B-side. And then we've got artists like David Bowie. So David Bowie always brought up a really good B-side. So Gene Genie is back with Ziggy Stardust. Starman, well, that's backed with Suffragette City, which I think is fantastic. And this one, which is Life on Mars, is back with The Man Who Sold the World. What a tremendous set of B-sides David Bowie often produced. And I think one of the most consistent bands for B-sides has got to be Creedence Clearwater Revival. So we've got Proud Mary on the first side of this, and on the B-side, Born on the Bayou, one of their greatest songs possibly. Long as I Can See the Light on A-side, and Looking Out My Back Door on the B-side. That's a tremendous B-side. Down on the Corner is the A-side of this one. Fortunate Son is the B-side, which is definitely the more famous song, without a doubt. And Travelling Band, which is a tremendous song, is back with Who'll Stop the Rain, which is gorgeous. And now there were some bands who were definitely renowned for it. And one of those bands who were kind of a glam rocky band, a poppy band, but on their B-side, you saw their true self. So on the A-side was often songs that were written by someone else, usually Chin and Chapman, and the band, of course, is Sweet. And so Ballroom Blitz has got Rock and Roll Disgrace on the back. Hellraiser has got Burning, which is a tremendous hard rock song. Blockbuster has got Need a Lot of Loving, which is a great 45. Teenage Rampage has got Own Up, Take a Look at Yourself, which is a great rock song. And even their early stuff like Little Willie. Little Willie is backed with Man from Mecca, which is a good rock song, and Wigwam Bam. All these are Chin and Chapman songs, but the B-sides are always written by the four guys. So Connolly, Scott, Tucker and Priest. New York Connection is the B-side of Wigwam Bam. And then we've got the 16s as well, which is one of the sort of more later songs that didn't actually do that well particularly. But Burn on the Flame is the B-side of that, and that's brilliant. And even in their later stuff, Fox on the Run, Misdemeanor is the B-side of that, which is great. And Action, which is a really good rock song anyway. Def Leppard covered that. It's a really good rock song, Action. That's back with Sweet FA, which is tremendous. And then you've got things like Lies in Your Eyes, which has got Cockroach on the B-side, which is tremendous. So they often had the poppy one on side A and then the heavier song on side B. Another example of kind of a softer song on side A and a heavier one on side B has got to be this one. This is Dancing in the Moonlight by Thin Lizzy, one of their kind of mellower moments for sure. Got them a hit in 1977, but the B-side of that is one of their heaviest songs, Bad Reputation. Brilliant stuff from Thin Lizzy. And another band who certainly had this idea of a more poppier song on side A and a heavier song on side B was Cheap Trick. So we've got Surrender on the A side, but the much heavier Alvida Zen on the B side. And of course, I Want You to Want Me on Kamikaze yellow vinyl, but the B side's much heavier. Clock Strikes 10. Good stuff from Cheap Trick. Sometimes bands had the album track or sometimes a non-album track on side A, and then on the B side they might put a couple of live singles. So for example, Iron Maiden's Sanctuary is back with Drifter, which is one of their songs, and a Montrose song called I Got the Fire. And I'll hold that one up especially in memory of Paul Di'Anno, who sadly passed away a couple of days ago, or yesterday I think it might have been, if you're watching it on the day I've recorded this. So yeah, great version of the band. In fact, my favourite version of the band with Paul Di'Anno. I saw them live; they were absolutely brilliant. So a sad loss to the rock world. But sometimes bands put live tracks on the B-side. Touch Too Much, edited version of that song, has got a tremendous B-side. That's Live Wire and Shot Down in Flames. Sometimes, rarely, but sometimes it's usually because it was a demo, you would get the studio version on one side and the live version of the song on the other. So Love Like a Man, 10 years after, is backed by an 8-minute version, live version of it on the B-side. Similarly, London Girls by the Vibrators has got a live version on the B-side, and these are all promos. And again, get back to Cheap Trick. I Want You to Want Me is backed with a live version of I Want You to Want Me. Now, sometimes you had a short version on one side and a longer version on the other, so maybe the full album version on the B-side. For example, Do It Again by Steely Dan on the A-side, the short version, on the B-side, the longer version. Sometimes you got a non-album track that was also live on the B-side. So, and a good example of that would be the B-side of Rosalie by Thin Lizzy. This came out in '78 to kind of promote Live and Dangerous. And the B-side of that is a song that wasn't on Live and Dangerous, but they always played as an encore, and that's Me and the Boys Are Wondering How You and the Girls Are Getting Home From Here Tonight. Now, some bands saved some decent songs for their B-sides, and a lot of those were non-album tracks. And a good example of that is the next band. So when they brought out their only album, lots of people moaned that the singles that they had brought out were on the album. And I've always thought that's fine, because that strengthens the album. And my gripe about lots of punk bands is that they didn't put their hit on the album. And people moaned about the Sex Pistols when they brought out Nevermind the Bollocks, and they put their 4 main singles on there. But what people should realise is that the B-side of their 4 main singles contained non-album tracks, which were decent. So Satellite is the B-side of Holidays in the Sun. Did You Know Wrong is the B-side of God Save the Queen. I Wanna Be Me is the B-side of Anarchy, and No Fun is the B-side of Pretty Vacant, and all decent songs that weren't on the album, so it's good to have those, and I think they strengthen the album by having those main songs. Imagine Nevermind the Bollocks without those 4, it'd be ridiculous. A little bit kind of bit more obscure now. Here's a non-album track on the B-side. This is Back to the Grind by White Spirit, a band that's got Yannick Gers in it, who went on to play with Gillan and then on to Iron Maiden. This sounds very Gillan-like, but the song Cheetah is possibly one of their best songs, non-album track on the B-side. Good Loving Gone Bad by Bad Company, which I think was the opening track on Straight Shooter from 1974. The B-side is tremendous. It's called Whiskey Bottle, which is a really, really good song. Motorhead brought out the single Bomber. This must have been 1978 or so, and the B-side of that is called Over the Top, which didn't actually make it onto an album. And that, for me, is one of their best songs, and it must have been good, because when they brought out a live version of Motorhead, they also put a live version of Over the Top on the B-side, which is great. And then we've got bands who also produce non-album tracks on the B-side. A classic example of that is Deep Purple. So Never Before has When a Blind Man Cries on the B-side, which is without a doubt one of their greatest kind of mellow moments. It's a tremendous little song, and it had almost legendary status for a while. And of course, probably the daddy of all non-album B-sides has to be Silver Springs by Fleetwood Mac, which found itself on the B-side of Go Your Own Way. It was controversially left off Rumours, and it's just a beautiful song, which would have enhanced that album. I think reissues have got it on it. Some bands had B-sides first time round that later resurfaced as A-sides. So Def Leppard, for example, when they brought out Wasted, had a song called Hello America on the B-side, and what they did is they re-recorded that and sharpened it up and put it out as an A-side almost, a couple of singles later. Another example is of a B-side re-recorded. So this is I Think We're Alone Now, which is, I don't know who did the original of that. The Rubinoos did a version of that, didn't they? And someone else, can't remember. But this is Lena Lovitch, I Think We're Alone Now, and the B-side of that is a song that was re-recorded and did very well for her, and that is, I've just forgotten, Lucky Number. There we are. And also another song that was re-recorded, but from originally being a B-side, is Cruel to Be Kind by Nick Lowe, one of his famous songs. That was originally a B-side to, was it Little Hitler? So there are quite a few examples of B-sides that have moved from the B and become the A and become really big songs. So I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor, originally a B-side. I Feel Love, Donna Summer. How Soon Is Now by the Smiths was originally the B-side of William It Was Really Nothing, of the 12-inch version of that. What other examples? Come On Everybody Eddie Cochran was originally a B-side. Green Onions, Unchained Melodies. There's lots of examples of songs that were B-sides that became A-sides. And there were some 45s where the song was so long they put it on the A and the B, a part one and a part two. Marquee Moon by Television, it's a good example of that. American Pie by Don McLean, quite a crude edit really, and on the side two we've got part two. The same with Get Up, I Feel Like a Sex Machine by James Brown from, this is 1970ish, 71, part one on A side and part two on the B side. Or Summer Breeze by the Isley Brothers. And sometimes what we got on the B side was an album track that was a different version of the album track. So on the B-side of Rio by Duran Duran, we've got The Chauffeur, which is a tremendous song, really, really good song, and it's a different version to the album, as is the B-side of Be What You Gotta Be by The Motors, which is You Beat the Hell Out of Me, which is a different version to the one that's on the album, and I think this is the best version. Sometimes you got the same song on A and B. So, for example, Number One Song in Heaven, you got the short version, and you got the long version on the B-side. The same with To Cut a Long Story Short by Spandau Ballet. Long version on side A, short version on side A, long version on side B. Sometimes you get different languages on one side and the other. So on this side we've got Major Tom Coming Home. This is a tremendous synth pop classic. I love this, by Peter Schilling. And on the B-side you've got Major Tom Würlig Losgelost. I don't even know if I've said that right, but anyway. That's a tremendous synth pop. Sometimes a little bit easier to say this one. You've got the English on one side and a different language on the other. And this is Trio, Da Da Da. And on the B-side, the German version, Da Da Da. You also have the Roadrunner, tremendous song. One of my favourite songs of all time, actually. I love this song. Roadrunner, Jonathan Richman, The Modern Lovers. So you've got the version by Jonathan Richman called Roadrunner Once on the A side, and on the B side you got the song by the Modern Lovers, Roadrunner Twice. This is, I think, a lame way of having a B-side, actually, just taking the vocals off and putting an instrumental version. So Exhibit A, Exodus by Bob Marley and the Wailers, with the B-side of the instrumental version, and Call Me by Blondie, which has the instrumental, which is just taking the vocals off. That's cheating. Sometimes you've got really weird little instrumentals. So, you know, the great song Brass in Pocket by the Pretenders, tremendous song. The B-side, two non-album tracks, are kind of almost like surfy guitar, Swing in London and Nervous But Shy, which are pretty throwaway and dreadful. And that's on the B-side, which is strange. Sometimes the instrumental would be a lot more interesting. So on the B-side of Running with the Devil by Van Halen, the B-side is Eruption. And that's the short guitar solo that just changed guitar playing forevermore, really did. And some bands put the same song on the B-side of two different singles, and the guilty party here is Meatloaf. So we've got You Took the Words Right Out of My Mouth and 2 Out of 3 Ain't Bad, and the B-side on both of those is For Crying Out Loud. How mean is that? Just put a different song on. Sometimes bands put two songs on, which is, great, good value for money. And sometimes those songs are brilliant. Children of the Revolution, great 45 from T-Rex. Brilliant in itself. But it's back with Jitterbug Love and Sunken Rags, which are just two brilliant songs from T-Rex. What a good value 45 that is. And then we get into the AA territory. So things like Down in the Tube Station at Midnight and David Watts, the cover of the Kinks song. That's a brilliant 45. Of course, we get the Beatles in there. They did a lot of AA sides, but Penny Lane, Strawberry Fields Forever. I'm not sure which one I prefer out of those two. Or The Model and Computer Love. I think Computer Love came out previously and didn't do that well. So they put The Model on it and had Computer Love on it as well and did it as a AA, and it got to #1 here in the UK. This is a AA side, although everybody probably remembers it for the main song, which is Peaches by the Stranglers. And it was back with a non-album track called Go Buddy Go, which is just a brilliant, brilliant tune. Love it, but everyone knows the A side. But that actually was a AA. Sometimes, though, you've got records that are better known for their B-side, bizarrely. So last few here, folks. So Splodgenus Abounds, Simon Templar. Well, no one knew that song because the lead-off song was the second song of 2 on side 2, which was 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, please. Brilliant stuff. And then we've got Ruby Tuesday, which was the B-side of Let's Spend the Night Together. Now, that's the one that all the radio programs played, because Let's Spend the Night Together was a little bit risky for the kind of 1960s, even for the 1960s. And then we've got songs like We Are the Champions. Well, that single is probably better known really for the B-side, although both are famous. But We Will Rock You, sung at sport venues and everywhere right across the world, certainly more famous probably than its A-side, although the A-side is also played at sports venues, isn't it? And then I think the greatest example of a song that was originally a B-side that everyone suddenly realised, hey, this is a lot better than the A, and everyone forgot the A. The A-side was Rod Stewart's Reason to Believe, but the B-side was Maggie May. And the rest is history. There you go. There's your B-sides. Tell me which ones are your favourites of the B-sides you've got, or the ones that I've shown. And I look forward to seeing you all on another video. Cheers. Thank you very much.